All right, welcome to Community Focus here in Nelson County. Good evening, everybody. I'm Kenny Fogle. Glad you could be with us tonight, and hopefully we'll be able to shed the light on what's going on in the world today. And I brought one of the people here that's protecting and serving here in Bardstown and Nelson County, Chief Rick McCubbins. Chief, first of all, I welcome you to the show today.
Thank you.
And I
Thank you
appreciate you being here. So, the state of Nelson County, Bardstown, I guess is more your purview. How are we looking right now as far as?
Actually, I'm glad to report good. Very, very good. We're crime-wise, we're not over where we were last year at this time. We have our typical thefts, typical burglaries, but we're still, which is fortunate, and I know this doesn't make sense to people, but we're fortunate to have the crimes against property instead of the crimes against person. In other words, we're not experiencing the assaults and the street robberies that the bigger cities have. So we're really keeping a handle on that.
Well, yeah, I had Judge Kelly in here about 2 weeks ago, and he said the reason the crime rate was up is because y'all were doing your job better. He said it wasn't the fact that crime was any different now than it was a few years ago, so they're actually getting caught.
Yeah.
So I don't know, he was giving you a plug there, but I had not thought of it that way until he said that.
And the judge would know. He sees it from all angles. So we'd like to think so. We've got a great department. Bardstown should be blessed to have the men and women that we do have. We've got a great mix of officers, young, old, older, I should say. Let me rephrase that. But a lot of experience in different ways. So I think we've got, I'd like to say we've got the most professional police department we've had in the history of the Bardstown Police. Yeah. And I'm going to stick to that until someone corrects me. But I'm very proud to be chief of all these folks. They're great. And they truly care. A lot of our officers came to this community that didn't know a soul. They heard about Bardstown, they liked Bardstown, they heard about the police department. So these folks on their own took a vested interest in this community. And I think that says a lot when they want to come here and work, when they could go anywhere.
Well, what makes a good police officer? I mean, it takes a special person to be a police officer. I mean, just the average person's not going to doesn't have the mentality, whatever it takes to be a police officer. What is it that you look for when somebody comes to you? And what is it you look for when somebody comes there and you find out that maybe they're just not cutting it?
Right. Well, one of the big things I always tell people, communication. You have to be able to work with people, communicate with people from every background, different levels. Over the last 100 years, it's transitioned from you had to be 6'1" and a man, formerly in the military, because all you did was fight. Yeah. But over the years, we professionalized the career. We've certainly, again, all male to men and women. So the size matter went away. And I'm telling you this because I teach a class that we talk about this at the college level. And, we've come to a point where we get involved and we solve problems now. We don't try to move in after the fact. Our big goal is that we try to be a part of the community. We know what's going on. We have to be a people person. You've got to be able to work with everybody. And communication of all the things that I really look for is how you interact with everybody as a whole. To me, that's what I like to look at.
Well, I know we get away from the political correctness of using the word, but I know sensitivity seems to be the word that everybody uses anymore. So, you got to be sensitive. You got to be somebody that's out there that really, and I know you use the word care about people, but sometimes you got to be a little more cautious. I don't know what the word is. Is there a change in police officers now than there was? Like you said, size is not the same as it used to be. Right. And again, you're doing more diagnosis rather than fixing the problem after it's broke.
Yeah. Like I said, we want to be more proactive so that we're ahead of it instead of playing catch up. That's kind of my theory. Is let's be a part of things so that we know what's going on. Sensitivity, I'm not a big fan of that word. Yeah. I think it's dumped too often. To be quite honest with you, basically what we're doing now, perhaps they did 40 years ago in the 70s. Community policing, whatever title you want to put on it. And we have to police everybody the same. Every part of town, every community, everybody gets treated the same. So I'm not big on this sensitivity.
Well, you have to desensitize, I guess, at times. Like when you go into a crime scene, I mean, it's got to be horrific, some of these crime scenes you go into. And if you got emotional on every one you went into, you'd be a nervous wreck by the time you came out.
Yeah, you do. You have to learn to be, I guess, callous, lack of a better word. Yeah. Sometimes you just have to be a callous person because you can't take it all home with you. Yeah. Because you have to remember, we see what you don't. You know your neighbor. we really know your neighbor. You know what I mean? It's kind of that mentality. We're behind the scenes. We're kind of the zookeeper type, is what I like to see. You know, you get to see the animals at the zoo and their great behavior, and but we're the zookeeper that goes behind the cage sometime and sees how they really are. So yeah, we have to learn to do that. Leave some stuff at home, and we can't. Many times you can't.
Well, and you just mentioned when you go into a scene, crime scene or something of that nature, danger's there. I mean, obviously, because when you walk in and you see somebody with a gun, and I noticed like the young man up in had a toy gun, but still at the same time, that same danger to you, your life is being threatened until you know otherwise. If somebody points a gun at you, I mean, it might be a water pistol, but you've got to make a split decision right there on the spot. Right. So I guess my question is, or statement based more than anything, is we seeing a lot of different changes throughout the country right now, and I guess I'm trying to get my finger on what's going on right now. Is people are they more belligerent than they used to be, or are they always been that way now? The television cameras are catching it.
No, I've been doing this 28 years, and I have seen just a lack of respect, not just for the police, for the fellow man as a whole, I think. You know what I'm saying? There's just, I guess there's a generation that just missed out completely on learning respect for everyone. Again, I'm not singling us out, but certainly we're the front line. We see it the most, but there's just this overall disrespect that you can't touch me figuratively and literally. You can't do this, you can't do that. I don't know where that comes from, other than parenting and education. But we are seeing a lot of that. We really are.
What's going to have to change? I mean, police officers are still got a job to do. I mean, so you can't just say, well, all of a sudden now we're going to, as you use the word sensitive. Earlier we can't go in and say, well, now maybe we'll back off and think this through. When you go into a situation, you got to act, and you got to act now. Yeah. No, we're not going to get. We can't. You know, we for the good folks, we're here because you expect us to do our job. So we're certainly not going to let the criminal element derail us. We're going to do what we have to do. Now, overall, yes, there has been a slowdown nationwide because of kind of what you've mentioned. And kind of going back to what you mentioned, even though you mentioned it out there about the Ferguson effect, but that is what is the buzzword right now. The Ferguson effect has had an impact on law enforcement across the nation. And what we mean by that is the social media. I just got back from being in Chicago last week for the International Chiefs Conference. The president spoke, the FBI director spoke, chiefs literally from all around the world were in Chicago for a week. And one of the things that we talked about, not much in the formal setting on the stage, but the buzz with everybody is the social media, that I can video whatever I want to video, and within seconds I can send it out to 5,000 people, which goes to 10,000, which goes to 1 million. I can edit it. I can make that video however I want. And by the time it gets around to the truth, all heck's broken loose. Hint Ferguson. The New York issue. I'm gonna bring them up. Sorry, Kenny, but I have to example it, because if you think back, all of those things that were said were proven incorrect. But by the time it gets out, it's too late. And I'm not saying social media is not a friend. It certainly is. We use it every day. But the misuse of it and the ability of some to just make that moment however they want is not doing anyone any favors. The criminal element, the police, the good folks, the bad folks, whoever you want to put in that mix, that's hurt us. But we have to get around that. So 10 years ago that wasn't popular. We were doing the same thing. We were doing it 5 years ago. What do you think about? I remember the 70s. That tells you how old I am. But I remember the 70s when the same uprising came up against the military. But it really wasn't the military people were upset about. It was sort of authority. And I don't know if it's the police that the people are getting upset, like when you see all this now, or they're just revolting against authority, revolting, and you just have to be on the front line. I'm just trying to wonder if that may be the case. I
mean, that's a good point. Like I said, we're the front row. We're the front line. They call us the ambassador of a city. When you go to a city, you always see the police first. You always ask the police, Where can we eat? Where do we go? What do we do? So that's kind of natural. People are gonna hate on us right off the bat.
Right.
But it goes back to that self-responsibility and accountability. If you did what 99% of the other folks are doing, you and I will never meet. And that's the message we're trying to get across.
Well, I know that's the argument everybody says. They say if you follow the law and if you do what a police officer tells you to do, and you just cooperate when the time's right to cooperate, all this other stuff wouldn't happen.
Right.
But people are not doing that.
Everyone
they're fighting back.
Yeah, I was going to say everyone thinks it's okay to fight back, to resist, and those are illegal within themselves. Even in the state of Kentucky, it's illegal to resist, regardless of why our contact is. But that seems to be the trend. Everybody wants to fight us, and then when we have to hit you upside the head, take a taser to you, or heaven forbid, use deadly force, then your actions are suddenly my fault. And we've got to do better with our education, and our parenting, and teach people that's just not the way it is. And again, I don't know where that comes from. As I said a moment ago, where it lacks. I've got 2 good ideas.
Well, I've got theories. We'd be here all night to go about theories.
But that's where it's got to start. Yeah. That you can hate, you can fight me, but we're going to win in the long run.
Well, in Bardstown, let's go back just locally. I mean, obviously, thank God we haven't had anything like that around here. Maybe that's got to do with the police, because I know after you first come in, you start putting people out on the streets, and people. We all know each other. I mean, we know our police officers. Our police officers know us. I don't know how much difference that makes. Right.
And it do. I went to the beat system where I'm trying to put the same officers in the same areas. And that's an old school police. The old-fashioned police beat. But it still works today. So why wouldn't we use it? But yeah, that was kind of my point back when I came on as chief. Coming in from the outside, I was told a lot of things. Good department, but my desire was to make it one of the best departments. And I had to educate the community, because a lot of the people in the community said, well, why do you want to be chief there? Man, you ought to, and then they would go into it. And I thought, I've got a lot of work to do, because I don't think that's true. And fortunately, it wasn't true. But it's almost like I have to be a salesman, and I'm okay with that, because we're your police. You should know us, we should know you. And you can call on us, you can stop us on the street. It's that type of old school policing that I like.
Well, I watch a lot of police shows on television, and obviously they solve crimes within an hour. Yeah. And they send stuff to the lab, and the lab gets it back. And I know sometimes that's been a sticking point around here. We send something to the lab, and we never see it again.
Yeah,
it just doesn't come back.
Yeah, that's called reality. We wish it were as easy as TV, but obviously not. And people do get. We call that the CSI effect. We have a title for every train of thought, but that's the CSI effect. That if they can do it, in an hour, including commercials, why can't you do it in a week?
Exactly.
That's just not the way it works. We really do.
And you have to be fair. I mean, obviously, you've got to make sure you've got everything before you're ready to make a move.
Yeah. And I've said it publicly before. The hot case that's going on with us right now, and other high-profile cases, people have said, we all seem to be moving slow. But my thing is, I want to do it right. If I have to take a few more weeks, I tell our detectives, take your time, do it right. And I think our attorneys in town would tell you that our officers and detectives have heeded that. They're doing a greater job at presenting.
I'll ask you to me it's a difficult question, but it might be a lawyer question at that. But when you're gathering evidence, do you gather a little evidence and say, well, this is a little, but I don't have enough to make it stick, and you just keep going until you get enough to make it stick? Or do you go on that little bit of evidence you have? How would you go about a case? Because if you, like you said, if you go half cocked or something like that, you're going to miss the whole deal.
Right.
But if you wait too long, then it seems everybody says, well, what's taking so long?
Right. No, anytime we move into something, we collect everything that we can. Sometimes it's very little. Sometimes it's a whole lot. Yeah. That again, nature of the sport, I guess you could say, and more of the CSI effect.
Right.
Well, you should have everything. You should be able to fingerprint this cloth. That's just not reality. But we don't ever give up. And I tell our guys we have to be relentless on everything. Now, I'm a little bit more hyper than most. I still love getting into it. I push my officers and detectives. We're not ever going to give up. Yeah. We may not solve it as quickly as we want, but we're going to keep pushing until we get everything we do. So don't settle on one piece of evidence. Don't settle on one witness statement. Let's get out in the community and talk to others. And find out who else was there, to really build that case, as solidly as we can.
Well, our population in Bardstown is growing, and everything about the area is growing. I mean, so does that mean crime's going to grow too? I mean, we're looking at heroin issues. I mean, it's not just Bardstown. This is nationwide.
Right.
We're looking at heroin. We're looking at a lot of issues, and people are doing a lot of bad things out there. So is that going to grow, or what do you see as, if you had to put a little crystal ball in front of you over the next 4 or 5 years in Bardstown, what do you see going on?
I do. I see it growing because our population, as you said, is growing. Mm-hmm. So when you have new people, which are obviously brought-ins, being the new population, mm-hmm. Being a brought-in, I can claim that title, comes brought-in crime. Comes new kinds of crime. Comes a different way of doing crime. Yeah. Perhaps the same old crime, but a different way. So you inherit not only new folks living in town, but you inherit their criminal ways. And I'm not saying, obviously, everybody moves to Bardstown's bringing criminal activity, but those that do, mm-hmm. then we have to combat that as well. So it's always a challenge because, crime changes with the trends, mm-hmm. Especially again with the social media, that's a new thing. You just read probably about the skimmers on the bank ATM, a couple of years ago, who heard of that?
Yeah, right.
Technology is so advanced nowadays that that's
cybercrime.
Cybercrime, and that's the area that we're always playing catch up in, because you've got some criminals that don't really have to leave a house and could literally clean you out.
Well, before we get out of here, you mentioned social media several times. Have you found it to be an advantage for you? Have you ever gotten much information from social media, like somebody giving you a tip or somebody giving you information?
Absolutely. I went in, when I became chief, I told everybody what I mentioned a moment ago. I said, I want to sell what we do. Mm-hmm. We've got a great product and I want to sell it. You guys do stuff every day that this town needs to know what you do. And so we started putting out those press releases, and people thought crime went through the roof. No, it's been going on in your neighborhood. You were just never told about it.
Right.
And my idea with that was you should know what's happening in your neighborhood to protect yourself. But it has helped us actually tremendously. Went in a little bit hesitant. They said Facebook. Now I'm all over Facebook. We all are. It's the only way to chat.
Exactly.
Now we have over 13,000 people that follow us on our police Facebook page. Mm-hmm. It has been one of the best tools ever. A Twitter account, Facebook. We post pictures, from the local businesses where they have thefts. Usually within no time, we find out who it is. Yeah. It's very rare that we don't. And even though you hear, and I don't know, it's kind of funny because you hear, well, in this town nobody's going to talk and tell you anything, but yet everybody in this town talks. It tells you everything. So when we put up there,
we don't keep good secrets.
Maybe that's it, but that was the thing that people said you have to watch because nobody's going to snitch each other out. And I said, well, I don't know what you want to call it, but my gosh, if you're the victim of a crime, you're helping your fellow neighbor.
Right.
But it's been successful. We have solved a lot of crimes just with Facebook, mm-hmm. putting the picture out, putting the description out. People in the community want to be involved, mm-hmm. and sometimes that's the only way they can. Is, well, I know who that is, or that car might belong to so and so. Check this out. So it's been wonderful, and I hope people will stay using it because it's a wonderful tool for us.
Well, in the large scheme of things, you have to say we've done really well here. Crime is very low, and I think it's a very safe place to live. We have some high-profile crimes, which they have in a lot of areas, but demographically, I think we're not doing too bad.
No, I'm agree with you 100%. Like I said, I think our officers are all over everything. Mm-hmm. We stay out there. We've got more officers on the street now than we've ever had mm-hmm. with the platoon system that I implemented. So sometimes that helps. Just the visual, mm-hmm. and when we miss it and you get one on us, we've at least got more eyes on you to hunt you down. So it's been good.
I want to keep you on my good side because I know how you can be. So
I appreciate it.
You are a dog when you get into it.
Tenacious little leprechaun.
Tenacious is the right word. Well, Chief, we do appreciate you being here.
Well,
we appreciate all what you're doing. Like I said, I don't know. I know I can speak for a lot of people out there. A lot of people can get upset with police officers, but we'd be in pretty bad shape if we didn't have what you're doing, and you're doing a very thankless job in many cases, because we definitely know who to call when we need somebody, and it's not Ghostbusters.
Right.
So
Well, thank you.
we appreciate you being here. We appreciate you going back, protect and serve tonight, and the rest of the time you're here. So.
Well, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for tuning in. And again, you can help. If you know of something out there that he needs to know, give him a call and let him know, and we can all work on this together, and we can make our place in Nelson County a much better place to live and a safer place to live. I know that's what I want, and I hope you do too. We'll be right back with more Community Focus here on Channel 6 TV right after this.